Happy Thursday, friends. Welcome to this mystery wine blind tasting. I'm your host, Neal, and we have a fun little number here tonight. Who's joining us as we get underway on this beautiful, we've had just the most amazing sequence of days for this winter time. Gorgeous warmth, sunshiny afternoons, something we'll take for sure at Field and Main, and hopefully a little prolonged season with respect to working with the farms. Many of them took a little week off around Thanksgiving, and a couple are coming back. So we're getting some produce from Sunnyside. And per Tyler's note that we get from him each week, time to get creative with Savoy cabbage, and Josh has been doing just that on the hearth. And we have a beautiful Savoy cabbage dish to feature, and we're kind of finding our way to work with parsnips and work our way with tons and tons of squash. And so we're in that transitional period into now full-blown winter fall kind of fare, and I think this wine is going to be a good option for those types of wines. So for those of you that are with us this evening, give a shout out and let us know you're here, and we'll proceed. And a quick note too, I think there was a little bit of a snafu on our side of things, where a few wines were incorrectly wrapped for this week. So you should be tasting a wine that's in this kind of a bottle, so a high-sided Bordeaux shouldered kind of bottle, as opposed to this shaped bottle. I think there's a possibility that we might have a few bottles like this still out that we weren't able to swap. And so if you're watching this and you have a bottle that's shaped like this, so more sloped sides as opposed to the more austere side with the higher shoulder here, I think, and it says December 2nd on it, I think you have the wrong bottle. Bring it back and we're happy to replace that for you. You should be tasting a wine that has a high-sided or high-shouldered bottle, right, like this. So, Kimberly, you have this wrong bottle? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I think the crew wrapped a sequence that had the previous week in it, or the 2 weeks prior to it, and just kind of kept going and labeled it wrong with the wrong sticker. So I apologize. We're happy to replace that for you, for sure. But if in the context of this evening, as you play along, you can certainly walk off of our comments or just not watch tonight and kind of come back through and watch it again with the bottle, depending on your interest. And please accept my apology for that. I thought we got to most people, but there was a question today, and clearly we didn't. So my apologies there. All right. Guest moms are joining this evening. Hello. And you've got Wendy and Eric with you. That's great. We're enjoying this little red wine together then. Well, you know what? If you've already opened it too, and that goes for you guys as well, Kimberly, don't worry about it. Just come on by and we'll give you this bottle too. That's not a problem. So Rhonda, you guys have, I think, if I know what the wine is, a lighter bodied red, probably not as deep and as rich as this one. So the descriptors are not going to apply as much. This is nice. Right? Kimberly, there's a lot to be grateful for in this world right now, especially for those of us that have the moment and time to spend doing this, tasting wine together. If you've got wine in your glass and you're healthy, there's a lot to be grateful for. So let's go ahead with whatever you have in your glass and start evaluating it and drinking it, enjoying it. And we'll make do with some series of comments, and then Kimberly and Rhonda, you guys feel free to kind of jump in based on our comments and offer any other feedback or insight that you gather as we're doing this together. Candy, Kevin, Jill, Norm from St. John. Wow, that's amazing. That sounds fantastic. Talk about someplace to be grateful to be. You guys are doing great there. Trish, Andy, and Kathy, hello. Good evening to you. Welcome. Let's get underway. So what do we have here? We've got a red wine. We've got a sort of medium-bodied red, right? For me, it's got kind of a ruby character, and to the extent my camera allows me to do that with you, bakers and Kimberly. You can see it's got a relative depth of color, but it's not the deepest. So it's not the richest wine on the planet. So I wouldn't say it's the most robust. As you swirl this, I don't know if you can pick up on what's there. There's a really thin sheeting that happens, and then a relatively quick formation of some tears that then form into some legs. I should say that the legs are persistent. They're there. They're not syrupy. Like they're not thick, but they exist almost in a two-plane kind of two-dimensional way, and but yet stay pronounced that way. So there's some viscosity here. So the body weight looks medium. The swirl on the glass, the legs and tears look medium. We've got a sort of medium intensity. I can almost see through the glass. Pretty much can see, but it's not light, right? So it's somewhere in the middle. Klaus, you're drinking a Riesling from, well, for you, if it's just you we're talking about, you're drinking a Riesling from Austria. That's a given. So if you have our wine, you should be drinking a red from somewhere we're about to find out. And there's a possibility that you might be drinking a red that we mixed up on. And so if you have the slope-sided bottle, that's the wrong one for this week. It should be a Bordeaux-shaped or high-sided shouldered bottle instead. And if you have one of the sloped ones, please bring it back and we'll swap it out for you for this week's one. Okay, so a medium weight wine, probably lightish in color, but not super light. Ruby in cast. Anybody else have anything they want to add to that? Wow, the nose is getting more and more interesting. Cool. This nose, I've been trying to place it, came out with a little bit of, came out kind of like a little bit of a spice note, and now is headed to me like into a tangy barbecue sauce kind of quality to it. And Tag and Zeroff, Klaus, is a delicious, many, many Rieslings from them, of course, but really lovely wines. We've been pouring that Reed vineyard from the Vaca. That's just delicious. A great wine. Really nice with turnips and radishes and things of that sort. Those root vegetables I talked about in the beginning. Grüner Veltliner and Riesling. Just delicious options to pair from Austria for those types this time of year and the types of cuisine that come about as a part of this time of year and trying to interpret those types of ingredients. So going back to this, it's a little bit of a barbecue sauce kind of quality to this. There's a tomato element, so a stewed tomato quality, and there's this hint of spice and a tang, so some acidity coming off the nose. Some black pepper element. No, I think that's in there too. What else do you guys smell? Trish, Andy, Kathy, what are you guys picking up on? Candy and crew, what are you guys picking up on? Ooh. This is warmer than I was going to give it credit for on the appearance, right? The legs and tears don't indicate a super high level of alcohol. There is a little bit of rim variation, right? There's a little bit, but not a lot. Like it's not a super watery rim. It's there, so that's an indication of maybe a little higher alcohol. But it's nice. There's a toasted note here too. So when we talk about a few things that we're looking for, a few things, fruit, earth, and wood, the fruit is interesting in that it's kind of cooked and stewed, tomatoey. So there's a vegetal element, but yet ripe in that it's cooked. It's got more savory, a savory expression of some kind of fruit as opposed to just the fresh fruit or a compote kind of cooked fruit quality. There's the earthen elements and sort of the secondary aromas that have sort of this black pepper, toasted sesame seed kind of element. It's like a neutral sesame seed. It's not quite as pronounced as a full-blown sesame seed, but I don't know, sunflower seed maybe. I don't know, something seed that's kind of just lightly toasted. Hmm. I'm not sure if you are commenting. I apologize. I'm stuck on lad. The last comment I've seen is from Klaus. So I'll proceed. I'd have to catch up as maybe the series of comments catch up. There's a little meatiness coming through, so that earthen element, there's a quality of meat. So when you say things like black pepper and meat, you should be thinking about a varietal like Syrah. Okay. Yeah. But not like, this is not a telltale Syrah that's old world in presentation, I don't think. But we have to do some more digging. The taste, the palate of the wine, as you taste it, the body is, there's a higher alcohol. I can get that burn in the back end, but I'm not getting a whole bunch of viscosity. So I'm not sure that this is any more than kind of medium plus wine, but the profile is, the fruit profile has more of that fruit. It has a little bit more ripe fruit element that's there, and so I think that's pretty fascinating. Candy, I'm catching up to you now. Understood that the rum drinks are affecting your palate. That's fair and should be expected where you are. Kathy, yeah, I agree. I think I was saying sort of, I think there's a chance that we're talking a little bit more about Syrah. That's, but I'm not sure we're talking about Syrah alone or Syrah from the Rhone. So maybe we're talking about Syrah from somewhere else, because the character of the wine, even though it's not super rich in the palate, it has a little higher alcohol and it has sort of a softness that I don't anticipate or I associate with the Rhone per se. So I'm feeling the spicy burn too, especially on the back, even the second half, starting about 50% of the way through. The alcohol kind of peeks through and then fully emerges on the finish, where it's almost all just the alcohol that you finish with. Maybe this needs a moment to kind of open, but it feels a little bit truncated and a little bit restrained at this point. I mean, now there's sort of a cedared note and a roasted corn, so there's notes of kind of wood or oak usage, and so maybe some French oak, in fact. So we've got fruit, but kind of more stewed fruit on the nose for me, and then a little bit more of a fresh fruit kind of expression on the palate. And that fresh fruit is more cherried, right? It's kind of, yeah, it's getting more structure from the wood that's coming out more. I'm getting more wood notes and wood aromas. And that alcohol is releasing. It's getting heady for that spicy burn that's in the back end. So if we're talking about something that's got some alcohol, you've got to be thinking about a place that's relatively warm. I mean, obviously all wine has alcohol. It's an alcoholic beverage. But when we say we're tasting alcohol or perceiving alcohol, there's a likelihood that we're talking about certain varietals as opposed to others, and we're talking about certain places as opposed to others. For example, a lighter bodied red wine, sort of in the 10 to 12 to maybe 12.5% alcohol kind of realm is not usually going to present with a spicy burn or an alcoholic element that's at the back of the palate. Think, for example, a low alcohol Mencia from Spain. It doesn't usually present with as much kind of alcoholic profile. Whereas something like Syrah, or even we're talking about Shiraz, for example, could have a lot higher alcohol coming from a warmer place like the Barossa Valley in Australia. So talking about a cooler climate Mencia coming from Bierzo, or a thinner skinned grape, or a deeper, richer, bolder expression of a grape in a hot place like the Barossa Valley, then you could have some of that alcohol. So that's where the alcohol component can help guide you in places. It's difficult to say like the alcohol here is X and therefore I know what the wine is, but it really is helpful in terms of creating a parameter where you would say, this has got high alcohol. I think this is a prototypical kind of Bierzo Mencia with low alcohol. No, it doesn't work. So this will guide you in that regard. It could be, Cabernet, right? Could this be from Chile? Could this be from Argentina? Washington State Syrah. If we're on the Syrah kick, and I think we kind of all are, there's there's still that meatiness, and there's still some of that kind of black pepper element. Not as much of that on the palate, more on the aroma around the nose. So it doesn't have like the super volume that I would expect for kind of an Australian Shiraz. Could be Syrah from South Africa, Chile. I don't think Washington State. It seems, even though it has that high alcohol, it seems lighter. And I would expect maybe more of a black element, a kind of a deeper, richer profile from Washington. I'm not trying to just necessarily stay on Syrah too, but because of that meaty, peppery element, I think it's part of this wine. I don't know that this tastes to me particularly like France. You could find it in Spain too, but again, I don't know that this has that kind of old world element. There's a little bit of that meatiness, a little bit of that peppercorn, but not enough to be in the sort of earthen elements that you might associate more with old world production of Syrah. So for lack of a better way of saying this, I think, I'm in Shiraz or Syrah territory in the New World. In a warmer site, in a warmer place where you're going to get some heat, because that burn is still kind of omnipresent. All right, so what do you guys think? Thoughts? Bonnie's watching us now, and Terry, you're joining us. Thank you very much, guys, for joining. If you have the wine, feel free to chime in and tell us what you're smelling, what you're seeing, what you're for sure tasting. Chris is joining us now too. Hey, Chris. Chris, to catch you up a little bit. We've got Bonnie too, and Terry. We're talking about a medium weight wine that has reddish character, ruby character color, kind of a medium intensity. It has sort of a moderate level of tannin, not huge, moderate level of acidity, verging on maybe medium plus. Medium body, it's not heavy, but it has high alcohol, and the alcohol is for sure present. It has a flavor profile that's sort of smoked meat element. It has black pepper. It has sort of a stewed tomato, tangy barbecue kind of sauce thing going on. It has Not a whole lot in the way of fruit in the nose, and then a little bit more cherry quality on the palate. There's a sort of a nutty, seedy element. There's a cedar quality. Chris, you're in the California. Great. Well, everybody's traveling. Moral support is welcome. So, kind of saying that I don't know that this is a wine that represents something old world. It's more new world in presentation. So we were thinking about Australia, South Africa, Chile, less so perhaps Washington, for example. I don't think this is California Syrah, for example. Hmm. Cool though. It's getting a little fresher, no? There's a little brightness that's coming along in the wine, and the acidity sort of seems lifted a touch more. It's fleshing out a little bit too, where the experience was more about that alcohol, but now the wine itself seems to be opening and kind of lifting and lofting around the alcohol so that it doesn't linger the same way on the palate. It's kind of the opening up of the wine, making it more enjoyable. The aeration of it, for sure, as well. I think that the spicy burn is still there a little bit, Kathy, but I'm not picking it up as much as I did before. Okay. So, where do you guys want to take this? Dean, hello to you. Welcome. Thanks for watching, for joining in. Are you guys comfortable with a stab toward the New World? And if so, is this Syrah? What else should we consider? What else could it be from the New World side of things? Is it a Merlot? Is it Cabernet? Is it different varietal altogether? Would this be from Virginia? Could we have a Bordeaux blend? Could there be Petit Verdot in this? I don't think so. How about Malbec? Is this Malbec in presentation? Zinfandel. Possibly there, right? I don't think this presents kind of that blue element, floral quality that maybe would be Malbec. I'm not particularly picking up structure and tannin the way we might from Cabernet, and even from Merlot. We don't have sort of the structured component and then that plum element or anything else for the sort of Bordeaux varietals. I still like Syrah more. I like that this has lightness, but it has depth. It has a moderate weight. So it's kind of for me, it's right in that Syrah spot. I'm not thinking of anything particularly minty. So this wine could be, as I look for that minty note, then there's a chance that we're talking about Australia. And no, Chris, not really. Like not raisin. Sort of one of the first notes for me that jumped out of the glass was like a barbecue sauce, a tangy kind of Kansas City barbecue nut sauce with a little bit of spice coming by way of the alcohol experience. And the fruit is almost cooked tomato element that's got a sweetness to it, but it's vegetal. And not vegetal in a green kind of way, but just a savory way. And it hasn't approached sort of that dried raisin element. So like it's not something Reccio de Valpolicella kind of ripasso amarone element. It's sometimes we've gotten some really interesting kind of figgy raisin stuff from past wines from Spain. I'm not picking that up per se from here. The Garnacha, we could have thought about that too, Grenache. So it could be Grenache elements. Kathy, you're saying Old World Syrah, so you're going to go like Rhone in Old World Syrah or Southern France Syrah. You get enough kind of that earthen element. The acidity's high enough, perhaps. I don't know. Just something about the presentation that takes me to New World instead. Cab Franc, I don't know. There's not that pyrazine element. It's So it's not old world Cab Franc. New world Cab Franc, I guess there's a possibility. Hmm. Yeah, there's just something about the fruit and the viscosity of the wine. It's kind of, it's like richer than silk. And that just drinks to me and presents more New World. So I'm thinking kind of like a Chilean Syrah. We have one on the list. Something like that, where we're going to get a cooling effect from the water, the sea, a little higher elevation note. We're going to get ripe Syrah, but not like super ripe, not like valley floor ripeness. Um, and so I think, you could get some higher alcohol because you could get the production that way. Candy, I got you the St. John crowd. Isn't It's nice to be known as the St. John crowd, right? Going Chile, yeah. That's where I think I'm headed. Chile with limited confidence. Could echo that limited confidence too. I could go back to Australia too, and maybe it's Australia that has a higher elevation place, like maybe it's like an Eden Valley, or we're talking about even a Clare Valley production, or McLaren Vale, maybe, where you got a little bit of a cooling influence, but there's still warmth. It's not particularly complex, but it's nice, and they put some wood here, and so I think that's why it takes me back to Chile. Uh, Playing the bottle game, I don't know. If we played the bottle itself, it's got a high broad-sided shoulder. I'd be more likely to see that in a sloped bottle, kind of a Burgundy style bottle, in Chile than a high sided one. But it could just be the bottle they use to bottle this particular line, so it's not a full indication. But cross-referencing that, it might make me pause. I don't think it could be Pinot Noir. I think it's got more alcohol than Pinot Noir. And I have had bigger Pinot Noirs than this tannic wise, but this is medium minus tannin now as it sits in the glass and resolves. You could make an argument for Pinot Noir from a ripe place. Kind of messes with things too. And then the bottle shape would be all wrong. I don't know that we would get a Pinot Noir in that bottle. So, okay. I think seeking to build on limited confidence, I'm going to go. I don't know if it's power suggestion now, but there is that sort of menthol element or eucalyptusy element now, just faint quality of that, which makes me want to go back to Australia then. I was comfortably not in Australia moments ago, where now I'm headed back there. And I think that might explain the bottle more than. So for me, it's like Chile or Australia. And it was definitely for me 2 minutes ago, but certainly the last 20 minutes, more Chilean Shiraz Syrah than Australia. And now the wine got bigger and bolder, and I think then I might go Australian Shiraz, newer vintage. It's not old, 2019, 2018, something like that. But I would not be surprised also if it was Chile. So I'm gonna do that. 2018-19, so 2 to 4 year old Australian Shiraz. Yeah, thanks to minute 28, 29 of this tasting, because I don't think I would have gone there before, and maybe I'm wrong to have ventured away from what I thought was more clearly kind of Chilean Syrah. So let's see. Here we go. Handy the reveal for you. Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, that's part of the problem here. This is 14.5% alcohol, so it's got a lot of alcohol. This is a lovely wine. This is from David Powell and Sons, and Son, excuse me. We're pouring that now by the glass. This is Riverside. So this is Grenache and Mataro, which in Australia they use the term Mataro to refer to Mourvedre and Shiraz, but it's got 10% Shiraz. It's 70% Grenache. So I got back to Australia, but I definitely did not get the varietals close. This is interesting wine. I like these wines a lot. He makes just extraordinary Shiraz that we have. We have 2 bottles from him. One that is from both the Barossa and Eden Valleys, and another one from a single vineyard called Leckel. David used to make wine at Torbreck, and is the winemaker who made that place what it's known to be, special high-end wines called Runrig and others. And longer story, but basically was removed from the project, and then after the non-compete expired, he started his own project and his own label, very simple. And a lot of the growers that he worked with before, the vineyard owners switched and joined him and didn't maintain their relationships with Torbreck. They maintained them with the winemaker, which is awesome. And so getting wines, we have the Barossa and Eden Valley wine on the list for like $109, and the Leckel is like 200 and something, but his other wines at Torbreck used to be in the $200, $300, $400, $500 range, and so it's nice to get his wines there, and it's awesome to get one of the wines like this that he's making in this context. This is a wine that if you have it and you can leave it for a minute, I think will benefit just to sit open, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, Kathy, there's a eucalyptus element that comes through sometimes in Australia. Sometimes you get it in California too. And that's not a given tell, but if I smell that, if I get there in a blind tasting, I really got to consider what it might be from Australia. And I always think of the koala bears chewing on the eucalyptus, and that makes for sort of a little bit of a signature. And it's not real powerful here or pronounced, but it took for me 28 minutes for it to come out of the wine and to be able to smell it. So it's a really pretty wine. He also makes Roussanne and Marsanne. That's a gorgeous, gorgeous white wine. If you like Chardonnay, it's magnificent. It's a place to go to experience that. We have a few bottles of that. And if you don't like Chardonnay, it's also a place to go because it's not Chardonnay. But it has this texture and viscosity. It's just a great, more robust white wine that's unbelievable for this time of year. Delicious. So we're fans. We'll be carrying these wines and his wines for hopefully years to come, because what he's doing is great. He's picking in places where the older vineyard material kind of concentrates the fruit, also a higher elevation and sloped vineyards, picking at night to try to minimize the potential for a really boozy hot wine. This is pretty boozy and hot. This was for a while, and then now it's kind of softened. I think the rest of the wine caught up to the structure of the alcohol. So yeah, a fun one for sure. Thanks everybody for playing along. It's always great to be with you. And again, apologies for those of you that had the wrong wine. Please feel free to ping us next time you're in and say, hey, I got the wrong wine, and we'll swap you out for a bottle of this, so you at least have this to try, because it's certainly worth trying. I'm gonna sit with this for a little bit. I will see you next week and the week after. We have 2 more weeks left. The wines are in-house. If you don't have them, feel free to drop by and pick them up. And then we'll break for the holidays and into the new year. We'll figure out how we begin and ramp this up again. So until the next week, have a great one, and I'll see you then. For those of you traveling, travel safely, enjoy yourselves, and come visit us and let us know how your trip went when you get back. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.